Hello, and welcome to the vlog. I guess I had been talking with another person, who knows who he is, more about life issues and dealing with problems that one deals with. I struggle with depression. I was diagnosed with clinical depression. I've been diagnosed with a borderline personality disorder. I've been told that I have bipolar tendencies. I haven't actually been diagnosed with it, but when I was talking to a therapist at one point in time, he said it sounds like I have it. I have possible mania issues because I do have a hard time spending. I do that a lot. I have to control myself, and it's really hard. And sometimes I'm a bit lazy, but I do get into the motor craze sometimes. If you see me during the time, you can see it. But I was diagnosed with suicidal tendencies. I used to cut a lot. Yeah. So those are some of the head trauma issues that I deal with, and I fight depression daily. A lot of times it wins. My room's a mess. I got trash everywhere I gotta deal with, but I don't really feel like dealing with it, and so it becomes difficult for me, and I don't want to get up in the morning, but I do. It's a lot of cruddy stuff, but I guess it all goes back, because you got to think about this. I was diagnosed with depression and suicide tendencies when I was 5 years old. It's pretty shocking that I was 5 and I was diagnosed with that, but my mother told me a story at one time that she picked me up from the babysitter, and the babysitter was freaking out and telling her, don't hurt the baby, and I'm the baby. And when she was changing me, she noticed that there was a red ring around my backside area, if you know what I'm saying. She believes that I was probably abused by the babysitter's boyfriend as a child. You would think that wouldn't, being a baby wouldn't register with you, but it did. I dealt with a lot of stuff younger, and I was awake sexually, more or less, when I was 5, 6, and 7. I would fantasize about my PE teacher, and there was a girl I was always trying to kiss and, trying to go after. Nowadays, it would be a real naughty thing to do, but I guess back then they kind of just blew it off as innocence of a child or something, But it was strange. Even remembering it was a bit strange. And it didn't quite help when we moved. We secure where we were living in Maryland, my grandparents. It was nice, but unfortunately, my mom had this whole California thing. She wanted to live there. We visited. She fell in love with it, and she'd always loved California. And I think our grandparents were pressuring her to get out of there a little bit. I don't know. I was young. I didn't know this stuff. We moved out to California when I was 8. We ended up living with some of my mom's friends, and they had a son that was autistic, and another son, and then 2 daughters, and that could be weird sometimes, because David Bryan, he liked to fool around with his sisters, and they tried to bring me in on it, but I was too innocent, awkward, just didn't understand. So I get the game of hiding and then waiting for the girls to come out in their 90s and then chasing after them. I was 8 years old. I was a little bit sexually awakened, but I still didn't understand a lot of things about the world. And then I ended up going to a school in Oakland, Longfellow, and it was on Emeryville, line of Emeryville and Oakland, so borderline, wherever you want to say. But I ended up at this school, and I don't really quite remember it, but the bullies were bullying the autistic son, and I decided to defend him, and they decided to bully me the way they were bullying him, which on a Friday in the boys' bathroom, I was I don't really want to put myself out there like this, but I guess right now in the world, people need to come out and stand up and just say it. I was gang raped in the bathroom by a group of 6th graders on a Friday, and then again on a Monday. When I was taking a bath, I was screaming in pain, and my mother realized what was going on. She took me to the hospital, and they had the police there. We filled out some reports, and I remember sitting there talking to the cop. I remember it just not that well. It was hard, and the school didn't really want to deal with it. Their way of dealing with it was having me to go to class to pick out the people that were doing it, and unfortunately, that's not how you do it. You're supposed to show pictures or something, not face your abusers like that. And so I was too scared as a kid to do anything. I was too scared to say who it was and whatnot, and so nothing ever came from it. Those people, they probably did it again and again, and who knows, they could be facing charges now for some future person that they ended up hurting. I know, I said that they were bullying me the way they... Afterwards, they continued to sexually abuse him.
And no one could identify them, but they would accept him because he was autistic.
Well, he could have identified them, but he was autistic, so they wouldn't accept his testimony. It's kind of messed up. But we ended up... My mom pulled me out of that school, and I ended up going to Bella Vista. Yeah, Bella Vista. It's a school in Oakland. Not a really good one. It was a year-round school. I ended up at that point, the depression was even worse. And I was starting to disassociate myself with my life, where I just didn't care. I was starting not to care, but I'd fall asleep in class. And this teacher would drop books on my head to wake me up. And I guess one night I was covered in hives because I was stressing and freaking out that I needed to go to sleep early so that the teacher won't drop books on my head. My mom found that out, and an investigation went on, and they pulled me from the class. But instead of pulling the students aside from a different class, they pulled them straight out of his class, and so nobody would back up the story, and thus nothing happened to him. But I got pulled out and went to a different school. I went to Lakeview. Lakeview. It was across the street from the Grand Lake Theater, right near Lake Merritt. I had a teacher who was verbally abusive. She would take her rage out on the students, make you feel like crap, and not make you really want to be there. So I slept in there, and my face was permanently... That's how it was. And I wasn't learning anything. I was sleeping. I just didn't care. By the time I was 9 years old, I didn't care about the world. I didn't care about anybody. I barely even cared about myself. I disassociated myself with everything. I feel like I stopped aging because a lot of things that you should have learned right from wrongs and different things here and there, I didn't really learn too well on those things, and I didn't really handle life all that well. By this time, we were also part of a Christian cult, the Churches of Christ, before they became the International Churches of Christ, or were they were the International? They were International Church of Christ to begin with. Okay, so it was the IOC or whatever. Crazy people with rules up the wazoo, and that's a whole nother thing that I will be getting into with it. It pays to parts of the issues that go on with me. But at the age of 9, I stopped caring. I slept in school. I didn't care about the world around me. I didn't care about people around me. I didn't care about anything. And it was like a big magnitude of fuck the world. And everybody inside of it. I've matured a lot from then, but it was a bad start to life. We'll call this part 1 of the story of me, of everything. Because there's a lot more, but we'll do some more later. I gotta just, it's a bit much for me, and sharing this is with the world, sharing everything that is me with you, and letting you know it's just difficult, and it's gonna take a little bit of time. So if you're really interested in hearing things, well, I will let you know. I'm an open book. I've always told everyone that, and I will continue being that way. So I will do more later. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back.